this? It's the Daily Tech News for Wednesday, June 18th, 2025. We tell you what you need to know. We follow up on context. We help each other understand. And today, Patrick Schlott tells us why he has started restoring old payphones and installing them for free VoIP calls in Vermont.
And do you like hardware? Because we round up 4 big gadget announcements from AR glasses to smart home stuff.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm Tom Merritt.
I'm Jenn Cutter.
Let's start with what you need to know with the big story. Or stories, as the case may be. Sometimes it seems like all the news is just people saying things about technology, yelling at each other about technology, rather than, giving you some technology. So it's nice to have a day where we can focus on actual shipping products that reviewers seem to like in most cases. I tried the X-Real 1 Pro smart glasses at CES this year. They are finally out. They look like regular glasses, except you need to plug them in with a wire to your device. So think of them less as like competitors to the Meta Ray-Bans and more like wearable monitors. They can work with a smartphone, a laptop, a gaming device, pretty much anything that supports an external monitor over USB-C. Your phone or your laptop or your Steam Deck's screen will then float in your field of vision. You can pin it. You can have it move with you. It's a 57-degree field of view, which gives you a nice, good, large monitor that you can see. And then the rest of the world is around it. There's no pass-through because they're just glasses. You have Bose-tuned audio coming from speakers in the temples of the glasses if you want, or you can just use your headphones paired with your device. The X-Real 1 Pro sell for $649. There's a discount if you pre-order before the end of the month. And you'll be able to get an optional X-Real Eye camera that can slot in above the nose pads if you want to do some photo or video capture. That is $99. It also gives 6 degrees of freedom motion tracking and stuff like that. Next year is when we get real extended reality glasses from Meta and others. X-Real plans to release true AR glasses with Google next year. We've got more products to talk about, but let's stop here. Jen, what do you think of basically a monitor on your face?
Yeah, I am so glad that you have tried one. And also, that's kind of amazing that a product at CES is actually launching in the year in the window that they said it was actually going to do. It's like, oh, well, they are definitely confident then. So you have this on your face and you can see the things and it's lighter than an actual VR headset. But is that enough to make you use it?
I am going to try it. I tried it at CES and I'm like, oh, okay, I get it. It's putting my monitor in front of me. I can pin it so that I'm like at a workstation and, and got that feel of looking away from the monitor, or I could have it follow me. If I'm like, no, I just want to be really focused. And even if I move, I want it to move with me. So you got options. It's great in situations where you are space constrained, but you want a big monitor, especially when you're traveling, right? So not just on an airplane, but I think it would be useful there, but also if you're in a hotel and you don't want to carry a big old monitor with you, but you want to use something bigger than your laptop's screen. They also don't have battery problems because they just take their electricity from your device, so they might run your device's battery down a little more, but they're never going to run out of battery.
Yeah, travel was definitely my first thought, or if you really wanted to work in bed and not annoy your partner, right? I guess. Or have
a bigger screen when you're sitting down, laying down. Yeah.
Is this anything you would ever use kind of walking around?
I don't think so. I feel like this is for stationary use. I mean, I suppose I could have a video playing when I'm walking the dog, maybe? Yeah. I hadn't thought about that, so maybe, but I all the use cases I could think of are stationary.
Yeah, because I was thinking okay, this might be a legitimately cool way to play Pokemon Go.
I could use them. Ooh, you know what I could use them for? Prompter.
Ooh.
So I have a monitor, sitting right in front of my camera, but the camera isn't blocked by it, That's interesting. All right, we got a few others here. Eufy is launching the Smart Display E10, meant to let you monitor and control your security devices. Can show you up to 4 feeds simultaneously, obviously from things like cameras and doorbells, but also feeds that are of information, like from your smart locks or your Eufy home base. Has an 8-inch touchscreen, 4,050 milliamp hour battery, so you can move it around. You can take it with you. The battery can last more than 24 hours on a charge. Comes with a charging station and a wall stand as well. Available June 30th for $200.
Yeah, for people who are investing in this stuff now, It seems like the system to buy. I haven't seen anyone coming in at that price point because I have been looking for something like this for my parents. They're like, "Oh, what should I get? Should I get this?" And I was like, "Let's get something that we can manage personally." And I'm looking at it. I'm looking at it pretty hard.
Anchor makes Eufy. I like Anchor stuff. I have not tried any Eufy stuff directly, but they have a decent reputation. The thing about this product is you have to be in the Eufy world. Like all your stuff has to be Eufy, or you have to have enough stuff that's Eufy to make this worthwhile. Garmin's on a roll with new devices, announcing a new sleep tracking band that you wear on your upper arm, hopefully to make it more comfortable. The Garmin Index Sleep Monitor is what it's called. It has motion sensors and an optical heart rate sensor. So along with sleep, it can track heart rate, temperature, breathing, gives you a sleep score every morning, of course, and it can run up to 7 days on a charge, available now for $170.
This I legitimately love. I used to, for people who've been into kind of fitness tech for a very long time. Also at CES, many years ago, there was a company called Body Media. They eventually got bought out by Jawbone, and you may have heard of them because of all the lawsuits about patent infringement by Fitbit and stuff. But they had an armband. So they gave me one to test, and they let me test it for free for a year. And I liked it enough that I paid for it for the next 3 years. Because it was an armband, you just really didn't think about it. It was the first one that actually worked with hockey. Yeah, which was great until like I was still playing contact hockey at the time. So, you did feel that thing on your shoulder when you got hit. But otherwise, for people who need this kind of night data, and it is a lot of people, like if you're using a CPAP machine, sometimes you want just a secondary device. If you are like a lot of people who cannot sleep with something on your wrist, I highly recommend checking out armbands. It is a world of difference.
Finally, not a product announcement, but an announcement meant to help you trust buying someone's products again. Wyze, W-Y-Z-E, announced Verified View, which embeds your user ID into the metadata of photos and videos from its smart home devices and matches it to your account before playback. So it won't play it unless it's the account that matches the embedded user ID. Wyze has suffered both vulnerabilities that could let unauthorized people see camera feeds, but also bugs that showed people feeds other than their own by mistake. Verified View is the latest in a series of security improvements from Wyze, including bug bounties, requiring multi-factor authentication, and proactively monitoring their networks for security threats. It does not have plans to implement end-to-end encryption because it says that breaks integrations with third-party services like, Amazon or Google Home. But they could add processing power to devices to do that locally. However, that would raise the price. And the whole deal with Wyze is they're affordably priced.
Yeah, like I said, having been doing the research on this is a nice tidbit to add to my pile of, okay, maybe I can look at them again.
Yeah, maybe it's worth at least giving them a second look. I think a lot of people just are like, you know what, I'm not going to use Wyze from now on. And man, if they were just to bring in end-to-end encryption, I think that would allay a lot of concerns. But I get that would raise the price because they would have to have different processors. They haven't entirely ruled it out. They're just saying, well, we need to figure out if we can up the processors first. We'll get back to you, basically.
Yeah, not this gen, but we'll see.
Not this gen, but this gen has something to tell you.
I have to say that DTNS is made possible by you, the listener. Thanks to Jeff Wilkes, Pele Glendale, Paul Reese, and James Corbett.
There's more we need to know today. Let's get right into the briefs.
Microsoft Xbox President Sarah Bond announced Tuesday that it will partner with AMD to develop custom chips for the next generation of Xbox systems, confirming yet again that it plans to keep making Xbox consoles. AMD made chips for the current generation of Xbox and Sony PlayStation consoles, while NVIDIA made the chips for Nintendo.
I got a question for you, Jen. I was talking to Scott Johnson on the morning stream about this, and we were like, yeah, AMD has been making the chips for the last couple of generations of Xboxes as well as PlayStations. And unless you were really buying the conspiracy theories that Microsoft was getting out of the console business, Microsoft has been saying they're going to make another console. So why is this making so much buzz?
I think it is because of the fact that chip makers and knowing the names of chip makers went mainstream. Like my dad, who's in IT, obviously, we'd been talking about this stuff since I was a kid. But, I've had my cousins say should I get this architecture or this architecture? And I'm like, you have never asked me anything remotely this technical before. So now that people know the names, it spreads as news.
Yeah. No, I think you've nailed it. That makes perfect sense to me, is that we're all like, yeah, we've known this forever, but there's a lot of people who are just finding out about that kind of thing. Yeah, makes a lot of sense. Amazon CEO Andy Jassy wrote in a memo to employees Tuesday, quote, "We will need fewer people doing some of the jobs that are being done today and more people doing other types of jobs." Now, if you stop right there, that's like, yeah, all right. However, he continued, "It's hard to know exactly where this nets out over time, but in the next few years, we expect that this will reduce our total corporate workforce," which immediately created the headlines. Jassy says AI will let them get rid of people. Jassy did encourage employees in the memo to learn how to get more done with scrappier teams, basically saying, learn these tools, figure out new ways to do stuff.
Honda Motor Company successfully flew an experimental rocket to 900 feet on Tuesday, then landed it vertically back on the ground near a test facility in Hokkaido in northern Japan. The flight lasted 57 seconds and successfully retracted and deployed landing gear and flight fins. It is the first reusable rocket demonstration outside China and the U.S. Honda says it expects to conduct a suborbital launch by 2029.
You go, JAXA. The Japanese Space Agency is pretty good. Gives me something else to think about in relation to Hokkaido, other than Hokkaido cream, which is also amazing, by the way. The European Commission issued a formal list of complaints against Alibaba's AliExpress e-commerce service Wednesday. The EC has been investigating violations of the Digital Services Act by Alibaba since March 2024. The allegations include failing to properly moderate the goods sold and therefore enforce its penalty policy against sellers who post illegal products. They're basically saying they're turning a blind eye to the stuff that it shouldn't be allowed to be sold in Europe. AliExpress has committed to changes to improve its systems. But, lest you think that Europe only investigates U.S. companies, they're investigating a Chinese one.
On Tuesday, an Israeli organization claimed on X to have breached Iran banks SEPA and destroyed data. Iran International reported banking disruptions within the country, and several bank SEPA branches were closed on Tuesday. Meanwhile, Iran has begun restricting access to some internet services, including WhatsApp, and VPNs used to access some foreign sites, as well as reducing internet speeds by as much as 80%. A government spokesperson said Iran is taking action to thwart actions and attacks coming through the internet.
Yeah, a lot of people reporting anecdotally widespread internet outages and slow speeds. There's a lot going on, so it's really hard to tell what's actually happening. But clearly, internet issues and Dow Detector and others can back that up. A couple of U.S. government moves affecting tech. The president of the United States said he will sign an executive order extending for 90 days yet again the non-enforcement of a law that would otherwise prohibit U.S. companies from distributing the TikTok app. So that's still going. The previous extension was set to expire on Thursday, June 19th. And the U.S. Senate passed the Genius Act, which establishes rules for U.S. dollar-pegged stablecoins and enables private companies to issue them, or would if it becomes law. The act now needs to gain approval in the U.S. House. The reason that one's worth paying attention to is we previously reported on banks and other companies talking about issuing their own stable coins or using stable coins to make faster payments. We talked about Shopify, for example, doing that. And some of the companies that are holding back on stable coins were waiting to see if the Genius Act passes. So it's kind of look for that. If this does end up getting signed into law, then you might see more companies start to do this.
In a podcast published Tuesday, OpenAI CEO Sam Altman told his brother Jack that Meta has been offering employees from OpenAI and Google DeepMind salary packages with $100 million signing bonuses to come work for Meta. OpenAI's Altman said, quote, "None of our best people have decided to take him up on that."
Netflix once said it would never do linear television, so put that in the pile of things it once said it would never do, like ads. Netflix has agreed to partner with TF1. TF1 essentially has its roots in France's first public television station back in the 30s. It is France's largest TV group, and Netflix will be able to carry not only its live channels, but all its on-demand content as well. TF1 will also continue to offer its content on its own streaming platform, but this is a big and surprising deal, and I think everyone's curious now if Netflix is just doing this in France or if they would plan to do this in other countries as well.
Yeah, I liked hearing that TF1, like for people who don't have Netflix, you're not being locked out of TF1.
Yeah.
Like you still get all of your stuff, but now it's just and also.
Yeah, it's just another way to access it, which I think is going to build. I mean, it's France, so it's not going to build too much goodwill, but it's going to build a little more goodwill for Netflix in France than they've had in the past.
Google's Search Live feature is now available in the Google app for Android and iOS in the US. You'll need to enable it in Google Labs. It lets you speak to the search engine and have it answer you back in voice.
Oh, yeah, like just a real-time convo. And then Threads has added a section to the following tab that shows posts from people you follow in the Fediverse. So Mastodon, Flipboard, etc. It's a simple reverse chronological feed. And if you haven't already, you would need to opt in to share your post to the Fediverse for this to show up. Those are the essentials for today. Let's dive a little deeper.
There are multiple efforts to restore payphones in the U.S. using modified hardware and the internet to carry the calls. We talked to Patrick Schlott of Rantel in Vermont about how he's doing it and why.
Patrick Schlott, thanks for joining me, man.
Tom, thanks for having me.
So, I bet a lot of people are wondering, why would you do this? Why do you want to restore payphones? And also, who uses them?
Yeah, it's definitely, I'm glad you said that. It is sort of an off-the-wall question to bring up. And it brings me back to the first install that I did at the North Tunbridge General Store, where I had to go to the owner, and my wife and I had been visiting them for a while. And I sort of said, hey, you ever thought about putting a payphone outside? And he's like, no.
No, so, not once.
But yeah, so I'll give you that as sort of the anecdote. But it comes. Why am I doing this? It stems from a general interest in old telephone technology. So I like old technology from a base level that includes phones, old radios, things like that, vintage computers. So two of my uncles worked for the Bell system back in the day, Western Electric. What we now know as AT&T. It's been divested and merged and everything so many times. But my Uncle Bob would have, parts from old job sites, like, phone pieces from the 40s. And one of those ended up in my parents' garage. So when I was helping them clean out a few years ago, I found this old receiver with a hook set. And I'm the type of person that I don't really plan my projects. I sort of happen upon something and I go, oh, that's kind of neat. Let's make something out of it. So I was sort of workshopping, and at the same time, a coworker had given me a rotary dial, like just the dial from an old phone. So I was tinkering, like, okay, I've got that dial, I've got this. And it's like, I'm close to making something happen. What could I do with this? And it was around that time I discovered the Futel and Philtel projects in Portland and Pennsylvania, respectively. And I said, okay, people have done this. I could make something happen. So the rest is history, as they say, but it stemmed from an interest and I guess fascination with old telephone technology and wanting to play with it, because it's like I could get into collecting phones, but having them take up space and sort of sit on the shelf and gather dust is sad because they still work. There's a lot of power in having, something that was built to last outside for 5 decades. So I think putting it to use again is perfect. It's better than collecting it.
And you've got stats that people use them.
Yeah, absolutely. I will get to that because the results will surprise you. But why am I doing this? It's kind of a labor of love. It's a passion. I like seeing old technology work again. And also in a place as unique as Vermont, it is a powerful, important public service. We have lots of stretches of the state without cell phone coverage. Sort of the last mile, communications. It's not always that reliable. It's spotty. And there's the emergency aspect, but then there's also like people should just be able to make a phone call when they want to make a phone call.
Yeah.
That I think something we've lost in the, the kind of world of, public telecommunications. I'm trying to think of the stats. I have the stats for the Tunbridge phone on my website for the first year. It was the first 8 months. Cause around that time, one of the stories in the local papers had dropped and I figured I better put something up to say, or that's what it was. It was the end of 2024. Wasn't quite a year since the install, but I said, I'll do a little year in review kind of thing. And I think we had like 254 off hook events. almost 200 of those were successful outgoing calls.
Okay.
I attribute that a lot to somebody sees a number they don't recognize, they're not going to answer it. So
sure.
There's a lot of psychology involved with that. There's technology, but it's also, okay, are calls completing or what's going on?
Do you think a lot of people use them just to try it, or is there as much people like, oh, this is useful, I needed this right now?
So I think it's both.
Yeah.
I think it's a gimmick. You'll see, 30 to 40 seconds is like, hi, I'm on a payphone. Oh, that's neat. Do you need milk or eggs? But there's just anecdotally from, I'm sure the librarians could tell you more, but in Thetford, the big thing there is that the school that's directly adjacent to the library is banning smartphones. I don't know exactly where they are in the process. I think they may have already done it. So kids have no way to call home to pick up rides, no easy way to coordinate that. So that was sort of the thing that spearheaded the library phone going in. So I know for a fact that kids are using that phone to call home. So that's like a real, we actually need this. This isn't just a novelty, which is really the whole reason I'm doing it. Novelty's fun. I don't want to dump on the nostalgia factor because that, obviously that's part
sure.
Because I could have put any old phone out there, but payphones are cool. Somebody sees that and they instantly go, all right, that's for me. I know what that is, or hopefully you're old enough to know what it is. And if not, you'll learn.
And we're saying payphone, but you don't collect money on these. They just work, right? Yeah,
no, I pay for the service. You pick up, you get a dial tone, you dial anywhere in the lower 48. And actually, no, it's US. I forget the routing off the top of my head. It's all the United States plus Canada.
Yeah. Sure. Okay. So I imagine we could talk for a long time about the hardware, but if you had to summarize it for people who are curious, like, are you just putting a modem in there? What's the modification inside?
So what makes the magic happen is what the phone industry folks out there will know as an ATA. I've heard it referred to as an analog terminal adapter or analog telephone adapter. So basically it uses the SIP, session initiation protocol. It uses the SIP protocol to basically phone home to the telephone server, and it provides a POTS line, POTS, plain old telephone system on the other end. And depending on the type of phone, on the type of payphone hardware, it'll just plug in and work with a regular dial tone. It doesn't need any special modification. But it depends on the phone. The Western Electric 1D2, for anybody out there that knows what that is, it's a 1970s through the 1990s, what the phone industry would call a dumb phone, where all of the smarts for rating the call, collecting or returning coins was all done at the phone company central office. So they actually sent, high voltage down the line to fire the relay to return the coins. There's something inside called a totalizer, which, detects the coins going in. Any freaks out there will know that that's what, allowed red boxing to happen, where you play tones into the receiver and get free calls, but that doesn't work anymore.
You get the free calls with your phones anyway.
Yeah, you can get the free calls anyway. You're welcome to play red box tones. I think that's rad, but yeah, so it's primarily the ATA, and then the project relies on the host being gracious enough to just give me an internet connection.
Is that wired or Wi-Fi, or does it matter?
I can work with either. I prefer wired because it's a little more, reliable. It's not another point of failure.
Sure.
But I have done wireless or wired, and I'm always testing stuff. I've got stuff in the basement. I'm testing like 4G LTE modems to see like how reliable that is. I've been burned enough in the past where I, put something together and try to demonstrate something cool. And, rule number one of demonstrations is don't try. No, I'm kidding. But that's part of the lesson, is like, always make sure you really flesh it out. Test the edge cases, test the stuff, even if you don't think it matters. A wired or wireless internet connection. Sometimes I use an appliance router in between because the ATAs don't have wireless themselves. And then, it's just provisioning, with the VoIP server. And I've been pretty lucky that most of the phones I've used haven't need extensive modifications.
So let's finish up with the VoIP part of it. Like, how does the software work? What are you actually connecting to?
So I pay for phone service using an upstream VoIP provider. So the secret is, and some of the other projects are different, like Futel and Philtel. I'm not. This is you'll get the inside baseball here. For now, I am not actually using a PBX. The ATA is going direct to the provider. So It's something I'm hoping to change in the future, just because, as more and more phones go out into the wild, anything like a literal service call is going to be harder, and so far everything's been really reliable. But if I ever have to go out, I want to be able to just VPN in from home and whatnot. But yeah, it's just, I wanted a good proof of concept at the Tunbridge store. I wasn't even sure, how long it was going to last, or if they were going to tell me to take it down or whatever. And their tune changed really quick. I think Mike at the Tunbridge store was like, let's do it. Let's do it. See if it works. If it's a problem, it goes away. I'm like, that's totally fine with me. I don't want to be a burden. I don't want to, make this be a problem for you or your business. And then people loved it, and they were like, oh yeah, let's keep this going. So
yeah.
That was sort of my plan from the beginning, was like, let me do the most stupid, simple way I can get public telephones out there. And then if it, as it picks up and gets more complicated, I'll think about starting a PBX server. And I'm at that point right now. I'm getting emails from all over. People are interested. So I'm going to have to think about changing my strategy a little bit. But the original plan is working for now.
That's great. Patrick, thank you so much for chatting with us. I know there's a good section of the audience that's going to have a lot of questions about this. If they want to find out more, where should they go?
You should drive to Vermont, pick up one of the phones and dial 0. Yeah, just dial the operator. No, I'm kidding. I mean, I'm not. You could do that.
You could do that. And some of them are in Vermont. So there you go.
Yeah. And no, you should go to Rantel.co. That's RANDTEL.co, like telco. And you visit my website to learn more, or email operator@rantel.co.
Patrick, thank you so much, man. It was good talking to you.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Hey, what do you want to hear us talk about on the show? We'd love to hear your ideas. One way to let us know is our subreddit. You can head on over to reddit.com/r/Daily Tech News Show to vote on stories and submit them.
We end every episode of DTNS with some shared insight. Today, Anand Jr. reacts to the Silly Science segment from Tuesday's show with Dr. Nikki.
Yeah, Anand Jr. writes, while I agree that many of these odd studies should be done, I question if it's the government's province to do so. If the government's going to be in the business of funding scientific research, let it be for replication and verification. And the results need to follow the existing laws about open publishing. Definitely support you on the open publishing. And I like the idea of encouraging more replication and verification of science. I think that's an interesting idea, no?
What are you thinking about? Have you got some insight into a story? Please share it with us over at feedback@dailytechnewsshow.com.
Big thanks to Patrick Schlott. He was a pleasure to talk to. Thanks for Anand Jr. contributing to today's show as well. Thank you for being along for Daily Tech News Show. No episode tomorrow. It's a holiday in the U.S., but we will be back on Friday. Talk to you then.
The DTNS family of podcasts, helping each other understand.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.
I threw myself off with changing how we do the intro.